Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hey there, hi there, ho there. Hey everybody, hi everybody, ho everybody. How y'all doing? How is it going? This is RHJunior, RHJunior Reality Check, coming to you live over the internet through also known as the system of tubes, including that little boob tube called YouTube, bringing you another broadcast session, an ordeal in pain and suffering, known as my little show, Spleen Squeezins. 1, 2, 3. Flim. Hey, how are you all? This is me turning down the music. This is me turning on the randomizer. Through the randomizer. I'm just gonna go halfway down. Turn this all the way down. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. Gonna skip down this, so we can't get some. There are over there are over 760 songs on this playlist, and yet they all seem to sound alike after a while. I don't know what to do. I can't hear my own voice over the microphone. That's one of the things that's a little bit of a problem. Okay, I didn't take the time to... Oh, this is my fault. Well, it's all my fault now. I forgot to turn on the... me think hard. Me have hard time thinking. I don't know. Let's look at the cute girls. Yay! I really need to, with a new slideshow, different images, different theme or something. I don't know. Audio. The sound meters on Minicam are not working correctly. They're barely moving. Hi there, Mini Dragon! Konnichiwa! That's the correct word. Konnichiwa, Mitsubishi, Datsun, Toyota, I don't know. I do not know what is wrong with my graphics because it's only showing the outsides. Okay, I'm gonna stop and then I'll turn it right back on. Yes, I'm fiddling with the settings again. Okay, hold on. Again. 3, 2. Okay, I'm back. Does the music sound, buzzy? Like it's too loud? There are so many different intervals. Sound goes through Minicam, then it goes through the Adobe Flash Media Live Encoder, goes through the encoder, and then it goes through. Then it goes out through the internet and through the live stream. Oh yeah, and that looks much better. Yes, that's much better. Man, I am never going to be able to live that down. Thelma. When I first drew Thelma Possum, I drew her, you know, pigtails and goofy glasses and buck teeth because she was, you know, a rodent. So I thought. I hadn't really looked at an opossum. And come to find out, they don't have buck teeth. They have little jaggy pointy teeth. And I picked an opossum because everybody knew. You know, I didn't have to know much about an opossum. You knew they were ugly. And she was supposed to be the ultimate, you know, ugly plain Jane. That sure changed. Well, there's not much I can do about the music. Just, yeah, really nothing. Okay, this is still my favorite picture. It's a remake of the Dancing Kitty Cat. She's a remake of a picture I did way back when I first got on the internet, and I first started getting into the the furry community. Actually, it was the furry community that got me on the internet. Because one day I had a day off from work, you know, struggling poor guy, and I went to the local library, and it occurred to me, you know, I had seen references to Sonic the Hedgehog and Tails, and something about Tails being something called a kitsune, because he had two tails. And I was like, this is weird, you know, because, you know, I was like, this is weird, it's Japanese, why do they have a fox with two tails? You know, that seemed like sort of out of left field for me. And then I found out that the Japanese had these mythical creatures called kitsune, which were foxes with multiple tails. Found that out from a fantasy book I was reading. Very indirect reference. And so I want to know more. And so I go to my local library, and there wasn't really squat about Asian mythology. And so, hey, they had just gotten their internet connection up. And so I signed up for 30 minutes to use it, and I went online and looked up kitsune, and I discovered a web ring. This was kind of big back in the 90s. They had web rings. They were basically websites that had a similar theme that would daisy chain themselves together with a little bit of HTML code. You know, click this one to go to the next website, click this one to go to the next website. You know. And I stumbled across a website about kitsune, which also happened to be on the fur ring. And well, let me put it this way. I keep using this reference now. I heard it put this way. There was a guy. They do a live broadcast called the Fun Day Paw Pet Show. Look them up. I believe they're still on the internet. Don't know if they're doing as well as they used to, but man, back in the day they were hysterical. It was just a full-out ad-lib puppet show they did with Folkmanis puppets. Look those up, Folkmanis, Folkmanis. Beautiful puppets, but very few of them are excavated for adult-sized hands. Anyway, the guy... Okay, this music is getting annoying. It's... Anyway, one of the leaders was the MC was a guy who was a puppeteer, and he worked for Disney. He was one of the animators, and he was also a fan of anthropomorphics. He was a furry fan, and he said he discovered the furry fandom. It was mind blowing. It was absolutely mind blowing. He he was trying to look up some information, some reference pictures for a particular piece of art, and he goes, okay, what do I look under? He Googles it, and he goes, okay, you just try to pull a random word out of his furry, da-da-da-da-da. And he said he was mesmerized, and he said he sat there browsing the web all day, all night, and he called in sick the next day and spent a whole next day browsing the internet. And he was like Tarzan. And I've never related so well to how somebody describes something. He said he was like Tarzan seeing other human beings for the first time. And I'm sitting there watching the show while they're doing this, while he's talking about this, and I'm like, dude, nailed it right on the head. Hit the nail on the head. You can't imagine what it's like. You think you're, I always noticed, when I was a kid, I always noticed that I preferred shows with, shows and comics and cartoons when they had talking animals. And I would draw pictures of people, and I would try my hand at drawing animal comics, and I always liked them better than the ones with the humans. I couldn't put my finger on why. And I thought that was just me. I thought that was just me. I'm just a little unusual. I don't know. And then I go online at this computer at the local library when like in my 20s, and it's like, holy crap, there are herds of us. And I won't lie, I saw a lot of salacious material. And being a rather highly conservative, coming from a highly conservative background, the prurient is, I don't even know how to pronounce it, prurient? The more licentious things sort of appeal to my baser nature too. The idea of these people that, let their hair down and didn't care too much. I was starting to go into that rebellious phase, I guess, on a late note. But anyway, I got into it. I got into the fandom. I started doing the comics, and I realized that this was an entire community. And I found a squeaky clean furry archive. It was called YERF later, but it was called originally Squeaky Clean Furry Archive. It was for artists who wanted to post G-rated artwork, furry art, without getting bogged down with all the other porno weirdos out there. And I joined the Squeaky Clean Furry Archive, and I didn't have a computer at home. And this wasn't exactly the day when cell phones were out, you know what I'm saying? The smartphone's not been invented yet. I was going to the library to get my internet furry fix, and then if I wanted to post anything online, I would have to go to the local Kinko's, use their computer to upload and download stuff. And I was like, this isn't going to work. And I talked to my dad, and I didn't tell him exactly why I wanted a computer, but he put me on the lead on a couple of things, and I managed to cobble together my first system and went online, and then I thought, hey, I can start putting instead of sending off samples to these idiots at the syndicates, I can start just posting my comics right here on the Furry Archive, and I can start posting them on my own website, and I can, and the rest is history. I'll tell you this much too, though. When you find a fandom, okay, first of all, you go through two major phases when you discover a fandom. You like come out of the howling wilderness, and there your tribe is, You go out to, behold, there are other people like me. And you're elated, and you're over the moon, and you go down there, and you get social, and then you start to meet some of them, and you start to see some of the things they get up to, and let's just say that the furry fandom's drama makes any other fandom look like a chess club. And first you go through the phase, people like me. these people are like me. And then you get and you go home and you go, oh Lord, am I like these people? And I will say this, that just getting associated with the furry fandom community. If you've ever taken one of those purity tests online, the before and after, let's put it this way, my purity score bottomed out thanks to that. It's not, I shouldn't be joking about it, but, laugh or cry. Those are your choices sometimes. And eventually, though, it's just some nasty customers out there messing around in the furry fandom, and I just simply drifted away from them. I stopped going to their websites. I stopped going to the forums. Started talking to people. I started finding other interests online, and just. There's no mistaking the fact that I draw funny animal comics. It's obvious, but my own immaturity, naivety, and conservative upbringing made me rather volatile and much disliked in certain circles. I was out there putting the ass in Asperger's, No, I don't have Asperger's, Aspergers, but man, I was, I like to call them, not to be crude, but Asperger's, Assburgers. Basically an internet phenomenon where you get somebody who acts like a raging jackass and tries to brush it off with a self-diagnosis of being on the autism spectrum. It's just it's just my natural emotional state. Yeah. Do not look this name up. In fact, I won't even say the name, but man, I stumbled across, he's dead now. The guy died a few years ago. I found a couple artists, man. I'm clicking, oh, who's this new artist? DW? Click. I'd never seen the like. I mean, it was like the first time you stumbled across Goatsy, or Two Girls, One Cup. I'll say this much: I've never seen Two Girls, One Cup. I've been very fortunate in being forewarned on it, but I know enough. Nobody's ever actually told me. I've never even read the full description of the video, but just picking up little hints and things. I know what the video's about, and that's all I need to know. Ever, any place, anywhere, never. I've never seen it, so, I've been given that small mercy. For those who don't know, Goatsy is one of the most notorious old internet images. Basically, it was very popular in the early days of the internet to trick people into going to that website and seeing that image. That's all it was, that image. Some old dude. Well, I'm assuming he was old. You didn't see his face. Bending over in front of the camera, and let's just say you could see his back teeth. And this was supposed to be, one of those hilarious initiations to the internet. Speaking of reaction videos, the show I was telling you about, it's called the Fun Day Puppet Show. It's PG-13. Let's put it that like, you know, these are a bunch of guys getting together, goofing around with puppets, but they're not a kiddie show, not by a long stretch. Crude, you know, it's just not. But sometimes there were things they did that were just absolutely mind-blowingly hysterical. And they've been doing this for years. They've been doing this for years. I think they're still doing it. And they were out back when YouTube was just starting out. They were going on the internet before YouTube, if I recall correctly. In fact, you didn't go through YouTube to watch them. But you know, they got licensed and everything. They got licensed to use the music that they use on the show, so they don't have to play the stuff that I do. But anyway, they just four guys getting together, goofing around in front of a camera and broadcasting it over the internet. And they started several traditions. Every year they do the Easter Bunny Massacre. The idea is that they would, you know, they'd get a bunch of chocolate Easter bunnies and film them, quote unquote, dying in horrific ways, you know, microwaved or crushed by a car or, you know, just dropped off a building, things like that, you know, Easter bunny death videos. And other people would send in videos of these Easter bunny deaths. And the all-time epic one is there's a guy who goes by the name 2 the Griffin. Don't look him up. Not safe for kids. But he did one that was absolutely hysterical. He had an Easter bunny out there on a log, out in the woods. All of a sudden you hear blam, 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 blam. He had literally brought out, he had a machine gun, a real machine gun, and he blew that thing away. And then he comes running out and starts jumping up and down on the crumbled pieces, and he says, "Children starving in Africa, and you're hiding eggs." And he backs off and blasts a few more rounds into the ground where the rabbit used to be. People send stuff like that all the time, and people would send them random packages of stuff to try. I sent them a package with those. I don't know if you remember them. They were the soap bubbles, except you could blow them and you could catch them on your fingers. The recipe was very unusual, is that you could catch them in your hand. And they messed around with those for ages. It was a hoot. And they had one show they did, and they never did it again. It was called The Drunk Show. They had made arrangements. Everybody was to stay there. They were filming it. They always filmed it at one guy's house. They had everything arranged there. Everybody was going to stay there that night. And, you know, nobody was driving home. And they were all going to crash after the show. What they did, the show ran 4 hours. 4 hours every Sunday at 7 from down in Florida. And they would, what they did for the drunk show, they filmed every half hour. Everybody took a shot of a liquor that it was called Rumpelmints. Apparently, it is a very strong alcohol with a very, very potent peppermint flavor. And they would all take one shot. And I gotta say this. By the third hour, they were blitzed, and yet they stayed in character. They stayed completely in character. You never saw anybody pop up from behind the stage. You know, I screw this show. You know, they stayed in character, and they just were tripping out, and did some of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. They invented entirely new characters for the show in that episode. You know, they just had a stockpile of puppets, and they would just grab some at random and they would make up voices and stuff. And, you know, And every now and then, one of these characters they made up would stick around, become a regular. And they had one. It was a shark. It was a folk menace puppet shark, and they named it Shaq because the guy who puppeteered it gave it the same voice. He did a perfect imitation of Brack from the Space Ghost Coast to Coast show. You'll have to look it up. Brack. He was either on Space Ghost Coast to Coast or it was Cartoon Planet. One of the two. Anyway, a Space Ghost sitcom type thing. It was Space Ghost, the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon character, doing a television talk show, late night talk show. And one of the characters was Brack, and he was, shall we say, simple. And they took that voice and that shark and turned him into one of the most popular characters on the show. And about a halfway point, about the 2-hour point, where they were they were just feeling the buzz when they did that. When Mutt told about how he stumbled across the free venom. They were asking me and said, I think they were asked. They had guest appearances. I'm not kidding you. They had guest appearances from genuine celebrities. They probably still do, but because this guy because most of the guys worked in Disney World, they managed to make the acquaintance of several stars, little TV stars like one of the guys from Step by Step. They got a brief cameo from Bear in the Big Blue House. They got a cameo from Trout Fishing in America. They're a humorous folk music pair duo. And then they got they did an interview with several stars. They did interviews at a convention with several of the stars from the original Willy Wonka. And it was, it was extraordinary. The people these guys knew, and they knew Jim Henson's daughter, and had her on the show once. And they had, in fact, one of the chocolate Easter bunny deaths was Sweetums from the Muppet Show. There's a bunny sitting there on the floor, and all of a sudden, boom! This huge foot comes down. Boom! The camera pans up, and it's Sweetums. Ha ha! Happy Easter, everybody! And it was great. It was so bizarre, and it was hilarious. I haven't watched them in a long time. Once again, it's another thing. The show started getting sort of samey, and I stopped tuning in. But it was really, it was loads of fun at the time, And I miss them. I'll probably check up on them sometime today or tomorrow, see if they're still broadcasting. I wonder if they ever, they didn't broadcast on YouTube. That's the thing of it. That was they were before YouTube, and I don't switch over. You can see clips from the Fun Day Puppet Show. YouTube. Look under. See if there are any. And they would around to this. And there was this one show. This movie, I'm trying to remember the movie. Oh, they've got a channel now. The Fun Day Puppet Show. It's an unofficial fan channel. Oh my. HTTP, it's www.pawpet.tv. Let's see. It says something like, oh goodness, it looks like they finally hung up the hat. Let me see here. Okay, well, streaming video and music copy, yeah. The music industry is basically ground them under. Looks like it's say we've come to a crossroads. Streaming video and music copyright and licensing have become such a tangled mess of pain in the butt. The music industry has made it impossible for the little guy to do anything online. The costs, the bookkeeping, the constant upkeep of trying to keep from getting flagged, it's no longer a labor of love. We thank you all for nearly 18 years of puppet broadcasting support. There's been a lot of history passed into these weekly 4-hour nuggets, and we've learned so much from our fan base. You truly were like a large family to us, spending Sunday night in my living room. The cheers, laughter, tears, and fears shall all be cherished. And we have left our mark on the furry fandom. Some may still have never heard of us, but those that have, I hope, will remember us as a positive impact. With the end of First Stream, we are going to take this time to make our break, since finding a new hosting fit would be too much of a challenge. Hopefully, we will see you all in passing on future meets or endeavors. So for one last time, good night, until we meet again. Well, now I'm sad. And, snip for YouTube. At one point, I had a stack of DVDs that had copies of the old show. And it's, this passing of an age. Oh, oh, oh. Really, I got to say, after 18 years, I think that it has more to do with the fact that they've been doing this for 18 freaking years. 18 years. There are people that weren't even born that were, let's see, 18 years, 4 hours a week, or 4 hours every Sunday. That's a lot of hours. They've been doing this show long. They've been technically, let's see, hour for hour. They've been on the air longer. They've had more airtime than I believe the Simpsons. And that's really sad. I'm trying to remember the name of the. I'm still trying to remember the name of the challenge they did. They had this video. What's the name of that huge, fat? There was this one man that he was a cross dresser. He did a character. It was what was her name? Not Divine. Not. Let me see. I'm gonna have to do another Google search. Lust. Challenge. That's the name of it. There is this movie. It is basically the Divine was. Here, let me pull up the image. If I can find a larger image. And this was basically it was making this movie was apparently the "How Low Could You Go" contest. Divine was a drag queen, and basically her movie was basically the most awful movie ever made, deliberately. And I'm not just saying badly made; I'm saying horrible. As in, my God, my God. And this was for it. And the last 5 minutes of Pink Flamingos is literally the most, it's supposed to be on record as the most viscerally disgusting ever made. The whole movie is about this character, Pink Flamingo. She's her prove her lived, and the final few minutes, she does the okay. That's all. And on the Fun Day Pulpit show, they would have them watch this the last like 30 seconds, and film never ever showed so much as a single frame of the actual Pink Flamingos movie on there. God. If they were feeling particularly evil, they would give the victim, aka guest, something like chocolate pudding, or maybe some fudge brownies to eat while this. All you could hear was, the soundtrack from the movie. Oh, yeah, they were playing. Oh, look at that doggy in the window, and the horrified reaction, and you'd watch the horrified reactions of this of the people watching it. There was one guy. This guy was hardcore. I kid you not. He sat down in front. They gave him a big old bowl of chocolate pudding, and that film started up, and he's sitting there watching. He just grinned, and he started just eating the pudding, just in face first in the camera, just savoring every bite, and all the cast were dying off camera. So this wasn't for kids. Yeah. It looks like the Fun Day Puppet Show finally, 18 years. 18 years of 4-hour shows and convention performances and you name it. And one of the things they used to do, I don't know if they still do it, they would visit children's homes. They'd put on a child-safe show and they do performances at the local children's hospitals. And, they were decent guys. They were decent people, and sometimes they'd wear their mascot outfit, their fursuits, and go to the hospital, and they'd hand out candy on Halloween. They'd have a big old guy stand out there in a big old furry monster costume handing out candy to little kids. They weren't afraid to take it over the top. And some of the things they did, I had to write in and say, dude, not funny, not right. They huff and they puff, but they toned it down a bit. there were several people that gave the Fun Day Puppet, doing their own version of the Fun Day Puppet Show a shot. There was another guy who was on. There was another guy. They would broadcast his show a half hour before theirs, and I forget what the name of his show was, but he was on public broadcast. In I can't remember where, but his character was a big rabbit, and they did the whole puppet thing. And well, and there it goes. I did send in a few fan drawings to the art jams. There was even a stretch where I did a crossover with the Funny Puppet Show and Nip and Tuck, but I dropped it from the archives. I sent them I sent one of them the original art. They purchased the original art, and I sent it to them. And I removed it. For one thing, certain copyright issues, that kind of thing. And they were getting particularly crude. At one point, and I was like, dudes, not cool. So oh yeah, here they are. Let's see here. Switch the camera back over. Figure you might like to see this. This is some of the drawings. This is old school. This is old school me. Where is it? Doggone. There you go. Yeah, I was going through a stretch where one of the things I do, a me thing that I did way back then was taking somebody's character and drawing it as, babyish and cute as I possibly could. This is like 1999, 2001. Make you feel like an old fart. 17 years, 17, 18 years, It had been years since I watched this show. Oh man, there's tons of it here. Let's see here. I could spend hours looking for all this stuff. Back in the days of yore, you know what I'm saying? Make you feel old, 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 old. I'm having a sort of nostalgia moment here, looking at this old stuff. Ah, here we go. You don't know what you lost till it's gone. In case you can't tell, Poink is supposed to be a ferret. I seem to end up. Man. This is back when I was known as. This is from 2002. When I was still going by the online name Ben Bruin. Originally, Ben Bruin was my persona online. I did it because everybody. It's when I first got into this, it seemed like everybody's doing cute, cute little animals or you know, and I wanted to be different. I didn't realize just how different things could get around out there. So that bear didn't realize that I was exactly nearly as original as I. Oh my. Yeah, you're gonna have to be stuck with me doing this. Like it's been years since I watched an episode. Every now and then I'd look them up online or something. Look them up in YouTube or something, little clips. But while I quit, I just watching the show. He was one of the guys that were on Brother Bear. There when he was part of the anime staff when Disney got a big old case of the stupids. They were about to lose Pixar, and they decided, oh, we can't, classically animated creatures anymore, and they shut down the entire animation studio, threw everybody out, fired everyone, and said, we'll just make CGI from now on. And they didn't have Pixar anymore, so they, scraped together some animators and produced some truly horrible direct-to-video CGI cartoons with their classic characters. Donald Duck and CGI, it was terrible. And let's just say they went crawling back to they went crawling back and begged the Pixar boys to come back. But Mutt and several other guys, they worked in Disney World, they worked in the animation studios. And, they lived within short driving distance of Disney World, of Epcot Center and everything. And it was like at least a month they'd be down there, and they'd talk about the stuff they'd seen. They'd talk about all the screw ups that the CEOs were making at the time. Screw-ups they made with the park. Now, for instance, it's one thing. It's a Gallery of Princesses. One of the attractions has a gallery of princesses, and one of the statues there is a statue of Cinderella. Now, this is a little trick that most people don't know about. Is there's all sorts of little hidden features all over Disney World and Disneyland and Epcot Center, and it's only the people who are on staff that have been there, forever, that know about these things. And one of them is that on the wall behind Cinderella is a big mural, and there's a crown painted on the wall, at a certain height. And the thing of it is, only the children can see this. If a child, a little kid, stands in front of Cinderella, the crown on the wall looks like it's resting on her head. It's a cute little trick that they did. And they came in, and the idiots rearranged everything in the building, including where all the statues were standing. And so this carefully orchestrated, little feature just would get gone forever because they didn't know what they were doing. And also, they were buggering things up left and right out there. There's one case, they have street performers. They hire street performers from like Ren fairs and such, right? Now they had this one guy. They wanted him to be a pirate. Now this guy was a regular Ren fair performer. He played the violin. He had his own outfit. He looked like Jack Sparrow, basically. He had the hair, he had the beard, he had the costume, he had the dreadlocks, and he had dreadlocks all the way down, halfway down his shoulders, and perfect, And he said, "Great, wear the costume, but cut your hair first." And if he wanted the money and he wanted the job, he had to cut his hair off. He cut off all those dreadlocks, and then they come and here's your wig. Yeah, they made him cut off his real dreadlocks so they can make him wear a wig of dreadlocks. And I'm sitting there listening to this story, and I'm going, "You mouse morons!" And was really tragic. You know, these people coming out, these people that were taking over the park, couldn't tell their butt from their face. Didn't know what the hell they were doing. Didn't know how to. Hmm. Starting to wonder if they. Yeah. Here's another one I did. Another character is this is their Bobcat. It was a Bobcat puppet, and the guy who did it was the same guy. It was one guy who seemed to do all the voices. Anyway, he gave the cat Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. And it was the, it was pee your pants funny. Some of the stuff that came out of this cat, and they named it Arthur. And you'd swear up and down it was the governor of California doing this. I swear, it was hysterical. Uh, Past fades away so fast, you know. Now, to understand this joke, okay, there was a guy. He headed up the the Philadelphia furry convention. I can't remember the name of it, but this guy, he was a doctor. He worked in the medical profession, and several jobs he did involved medical procurement. He was one of those guys who would hunt down various organs and such. You know, the doctors say, you know, we need a liver for transplant, or you know, we need some kidneys for medical research or something, and he would track them down, and you know, he was the intermediary. Well, this guy, his persona was Uncle Kage, which was short for Kagemushi. He got the name. He said he was sitting there at his desk one day, and he saw a cockroach crawling across the top of his monitor. Back when we had those big clunky square monitors, in case you're wondering. And he said, "Oh, cockroach!" And he picked up a newspaper and he went to swat it, and that sucker turned around, reared up at him, and waved its front. I'm like, "Bring it!" And for some reason, he thought that was hysterical for some reason. And, you know, Kagemushi, the shadow bug. That's what the word means. And he adopted it as his persona online. Now, Uncle Kage took over the convention He was the head of the convention. He was in charge of the whole thing. And one of the things he was known for is his storytelling. And this guy had some absolutely somewhere in his house. I have got a copy of the DVD. They used that character. They used my artwork on the cover, and they were cool. Like used. I drew this comic ages ago. Here with the lettering. So these are all shiny. He would do things like handle fundraisers for various animal charities, kind of through the show. And well, things about these conventions is it's like any other convention. People come in, and even if you pre-registered, the line goes on for you. Can end up standing in line 2 or 3 hours just to register that you have arrived. And he took it upon himself. He would go out there, and apparently he realized that his stories. He would every time he would tell one of his stories, everybody loved it, and he took it upon himself. He would go out and stand in the lobby and just stories from his life, and he could have easily have made it as a stand-up comedian. It was awesome, and gag. Everybody would say, "Tell us a story, Uncle Kage." I wonder if he still does what he does now. Anyway, I drew up. He had done a huge fundraiser for this wild cat, this large cat preserve down in Florida, and they had raised a huge heap of money. And I drew a comic, celebrating it, and giving him. That's one thing about the furry community. Generally speaking, they put their money where their mouth is. They do try and reserves, endangered species, and animal rescue and that kind of thing. So give them props where they deserve it. Beg your pardon. I think I'll stop that for now. I get depressed if I keep doing that. Tuck. Let's be honest. Tuck is a little old-fashioned about certain things, and the fact that he had two things he had worrying about. He was worrying himself about. One, the fact that having Thelma walk around was steaming up his glasses, so to speak. And two, she might be steaming up some other guy's glasses, too. But I think he got over it by the end of the cruise. by the time they were married. uh, uh, okay, let's see if I can't do something productive today. Mostly I've been doing the past couple of days is just sketching. I can't seem to get focused together. But, I probably shouldn't have ever, I probably should have stayed well away. As a Christian, I don't think it did me. I don't think it did me good. But if it hadn't been that, sometimes maybe not. Maybe if it hadn't been that, it would have been something else. Being part of the furry fandom, I don't know. I guess I have to just chalk it up as lessons learned. Part of me says, I never should have been part of this. I never should have associated with some of these people. I never should have. I never should have. Gotten involved with the fan because it's so messed up. Some regards. They're nice people, decent people, a lot of good people floating out there, but the main venues and such, the conventions, the forums, the gatherings, too much of the bad to overlook for the sake of the good. Earlier today I watched a couple of videos that a couple of historians are saying that describing the fall of empires. I believe the guy said there were 6 stages of empire, of any empire, whether of any kind. The pioneers, the conquerors, the settlers. The explorers, then the conquerors, then the pioneers and settlers, then the affluent, industry and affluence, then the intellectual phase, and then the decadence. And some of the things they described, these are parallels that all empires, Rome, Greece, Persia, all of them went through the same periods. And this is a reaffirmation of some of the things I've already known. They said one of the signs of the final phase of an empire before it collapses or before it fades away, the decadence, and a focus on bread and circuses, entertainments and distractions, sports, and an over obsession with sex. A devaluation of the money. Now that sounds like out of left field, devaluation of the money. But think about it. The switch from commodity currency, from gold and silver, the most common commodity currencies and the most stable, to fiat currency, it's literally nothing but bankers and politicians deciding they want to spend money they don't have, and so they print out receipts for gold they never put in the bank, and spend those. It's theft. It is long drawn out theft and fraud. So chalk it up as instead of calling it that, they should call it mass government financial fraud. This happened to the Greeks. Originally, they had a gold silver standard. They eventually reached a point where the dinar, their currency, was so devalued. It was basically just a copper coin, and they took to plating it with silver. They would wash it and give it a thin coating of silver, which would wear off in a short while as it was going around in the system and in circulation. And you wonder, just reach in your pocket and pull out your coins, pull out the coins you get. They pretend, these worshippers of fiat currency like to pretend they're not thieves. They claim that the gold standard's outdated, it'll never come back, it would never work, and they give all these reasons that using real money isn't as good as using fake money. When it comes down to it, you'll notice that they go the hell out of their way to make sure that the coins are nice and shiny. To this day, there's no reason for it. There's no practical reason for it. But they take the coins, the quarters, the dimes, the nickels. They coat them in nickel. Just to keep them looking kind of sort of like silver. Every time they come out with a new version of the dollar coin, it's either coated in nickel to make it look silver, or it's coated in a micro-thin layer of gold. The Sacagawea dollar, wasn't it interesting? They brought out this new dollar and they gilded it to try and make it look real, like it was real money. And all it was is it had no more real value and nothing more backing it than a subway bus token. They could be printing. They could save they could save a fortune and just print out poker chips and call them money. And they always try and make the American dollar look as much like the old dollar as they can, because people still associate those old greenbacks with actual money. But you notice the further along they go, they have to try harder and harder to make the currency, paper currency especially, hard to forge. And so it gets more and more ornate. That's what they did. I saw an image once that showed the current round of bills. And the scary thing is that the colors are starting to match the colors in the Monopoly money. The different bills. A $10 bill has a strangely similar hue to that of the $10 bill in a Monopoly game. And the $20 bill and the $50 bill. It's like, oh crap. They're not even kidding anymore. They're not even pretending. And other sign of, and this was an interesting one. Celebrities become ridiculously wealthy. Sports figures, they described it. There was a particular charioteer near the end of the Roman Empire. His prize money alone in modern currency would be close to 11 billion with a B dollars. He was that freaking rich, and he was just one charioteer. And that was just from his winnings. And then there was one other thing, and this was a very peculiar and interesting parallel. One of the groups that become celebrities as an empire starts to collapse. Chefs. Yeah, the collapse of the Roman Empire. Near the end, there were great chefs who became, world famous. And you see that at the end of several empires, the history of Europe. Look at France. The food snobbery there is off the scale. But look at us now. Look at us now. I'm like, I was so surprised. I knew this was a current thing. I never didn't know that, ancient Rome, they had had epic level chefs who were celebrities in their own right. And look at us now. We've got Gordon Ramsay, Emeril Lagasse, Chef Paul Prudhomme, and this has been going on for a while. But you look at the food channel. We got an entire channel of people like the guy from Diners, Dives, and Drive-ins. Food connoisseurs and artists are world famous. And, like, that's a very unusual parallel. Makes me wonder. The question isn't, is America, the Western Empire, going to collapse, but how is it going to go? Is it going to go slowly and quietly, or is it going to uh, collapse all at once? And what's going to take its place? And the way things are looking, an Islamic-run world is a fairly safe bet. Unless something extraordinary happens. Another thing they said is a parallel is that near the end of empire, there will be groups that arise inside the nation, the empire, various causes, purposes, philosophies, so swearing that they want to restore the empire. And often they're either ineffective or they bring about the destruction of the empire from within. Can you see Antifa kids? And let's be honest, on the optimistic but hopelessly outgunned side, we've got the Tea Party, MAGA, the whole Trump movement. I don't think, his objective is noble, but from what I've read, from what I've seen, from what I know, the avalanche has gained too much momentum. Look, it's not always a doomsday demise. Look at Great Britain. Great Britain was once an empire that literally the sun never set on because they had colonies all the way around the world, all the way around the globe. And now they're back to being nothing but a little island nation. Germany had its day in the sun. Italy did. France, Spain, everywhere. Yet those nations, those empires, but the nation still exists. So I think it's feasible that America could survive the demise of the Western Empire, as it were. But what will God have left for us? Too many people think that the end of their own little corner of the world means the end of the world. How many times have people predicted the end? The end times are coming. The rapture is next week, and the 7 years tribulation the week after that. This is one thing you have to take with you. One thing to get you through
realizing that even though cities crumble, empires fall, God's kingdom will prevail and endure. What is good will be preserved and will survive. Everything that really matters, I mean really matters, Jesus has already claimed and will preserve his own. Probably gonna have to go to the wound care center sometime next week. One of the problems of having legs like mine, that any little cut or nick or scratch, you get a lot of little fluid seepages. Your legs literally leak like a sieve, and it's very difficult for the wounds to heal. You know, they don't hurt or bleed or anything. That's the problem. They just get a little pinhole and just, you know, weeps. I know that sounds lovely, but sometimes it takes special treatments to get the legs to heal up properly, and if you don't, you can get infections. So on and so forth. I don't have any, I don't have any infection. There's no, no height, no temperature, no redness. It's just that I've got several little pinpricks, a little blister will pop, or a little something like, or a little cut or scrape will refuse to heal up right, and I have to go around with bandage pads stuck all over my legs to soak up the fluid, and until these heal up, it's a constant grief. Okay, that was my mistake. That was not supposed to be old Vic 59. Save as documents. $726 pages. Beg pardon. Again. Okay. Quick fix. This is what I feel like whenever it's, you know, you can't do that, you can't say that, you'll trigger them. And I'm like, oh, did I trigger you? Let me try again! Very juvenile. How many more strips left in PB? What do you mean PB? Probability bomb? I have no idea. Truth? I have no idea. I have absolutely no friggin' idea. I'm thinking I'm feeling that the story is about the 2/3 point. Might as well do this in regular black ink. No sense. Now, realistically, the way the monks are covering their tracks would not really work. Let me switch the camera over. They're carrying what they can out on their backs, scattering in all directions. And burning whatever's left behind. They've scattered bone. There were actually bones and such down in the catacombs. They've scattered a few of the bones among the buildings, so that it looks like uh, they were burned to death. Not very many, but and this would obviously not fool anybody today. Any half-competent police officer would see right through this. But this isn't exactly the age of CSI. You know what I'm saying? Besides, they're going to come there. The people, the sheriff and his men, they're going to come there. They're going to find the buildings burned down. A few of the buildings will have charred bones among the ashes, and there will be wolf paw prints all over the place. So they're going to figure that whatever happened, if there had been any, that the wolves dragged off any corpses that they don't find, which technically is going to be true, because the wolves did leave with their carcasses intact. Come on, computer. Okay, I'm trying a different method to try and speed up production. I do a quick sketch, then I type out the text. Then I come back to finishing up drawings. Oh, big yawn. How many more? The probability bomb. Let's see. Um, it's going to turn out to. You remember how in the Avengers, Tony Stark had an epiphany and figured out uh, uh, where Loki was going to reappear? And he said, he wants to make a big show. He wants to show the whole world. He wants, front stage center. And he realized that, oh crap, he's going to be here at Stark Tower. Well, currently in the probability bomb, they've reached something of an impasse. The mad professor and his fleet of the mad professor, his mercenaries, and the fleet of nihilists, they've basically vanished into the big black. And quite frankly, tracking a faster than light spaceship through the depths of space is not an easy proposition for multiple reasons. Anyway, and they're at an impasse. They do it anywhere. First of all, he's going to want to set it someplace that is completely sterile, like somebody doing a lab experiment. And he's going to want a barren, utterly lifeless, arise without, can arise by accident. And in order to do this, he's going to have to start, laboratory sterile quality situation. But that doesn't narrow it down enough, because there are, for all the inhabited worlds in the Questorverse, there are millions of lifeless rocks out there. Mad scientist is going to have an epiphany, a quest to kill for whatever that God, he doesn't need to exist for life to exist. He wants all the little children of the world at once. That Santa Claus, there is no Santa Claus. The dog wears dresses, he everyone's and to do that, he's going to have to set off. He wants to stick basically, and so where is he going to? It's going to be Quentin, who realizes he's going to be looking for religiously important conduct his, a symbolic gesture entire. So where is coming to this point? People are going to look at this as dangerous. You know, it works to try any other setup. Anyway, yeah, just anyway, what it's going to be is that there is going to be one planet that's going to be perfect. Huge anti-theistic be going to this importance, and it's galaxy. The entire galaxy is going to be watching it. It's the idea is that this is a planet. The planet is going to be called Reliquary. For those who don't know, the word reliquary is or container for sacred artifacts. Like the Ark of the Covenant was basically a relic. Broke the first 2 tablets of the 10 Commandments in it, and several other artifacts, so on and so forth. But this planet Reliquary, as you may have surmised, the past stories, the Sojourner faith has spread out among the stars. In fact, it is predominant in the galactic arm. Due to this, one group of very prominent and wealthy Sojourner believers decided they wanted to museum, or well, actually, they wanted to make reliquary of the representative of as representative of their faith. Vast public work. Think of it like over well, you get the idea, or the Vatican, or so. And what they did is that a planet orbiting a G-type star, G-class star. It is completely airless. Is a moon, and they basically used it as a archive. All their mostly where they would use it to store copies and archives of their scriptures, their most prominent religious artwork. They basically turned the entire planet into huge sections of it anyway, into an art gallery. The huge statue the Statue of Liberty, of various religious scenes, all sorts of samples of uh, sacred archives and relics and reliquaries and so on and so. You get the idea. Basically it was basic art. To be at just the right distance from a G-class star. It happens to have a sizable moon. All it lacks is terraforming, habitable. As it currently stands, it's an airless planet, which preserves everything that they built on it and that they put into it perfectly. All the artwork, cathedrals that they built on it. Quinn is going to realize, oh crap, this controversy some 10, 20 years ago, because somebody and who dedicated to this huge religious work, this religious project, went bankrupt and they got bought out. Huge controversy because it had become a galactic landmark. Sojourner faith, which number at this point in the trillions. And it was revealed that the people that bought it out, somehow it got leaked that they were would make it inhabitable, but would destroy all the been built on this planet, and he realized bought it out. It appears that their money to leverage Sojourner, the Sojourner believers out of ownership of the planet, and they have been holding on to it for just this purpose. Now they know. It struck me as being an interesting parallel. You'll know anything about the French Revolution? This happens whenever an atheist government or political movement take over. They move in to destroy of religion or faith. Competition. They made it to desecrate in France. They would hold bacchanals right in the vandalize them. They you look at this in any case. These people, books burned, statues defaced, or desecrated. Operational procedure. I thought it would be a very interesting parallel that this uh, angry little scientist is perfectly willing to destroy an entire planet that's literally a planet-sized piece of toys and make you watch while he does it. They don't feel like that. They don't think like that. Yeah, it's an interesting thing about you about back in the 1990s. There was they of it at first. Churches are being there were more white churches, quote unquote, white churches being burned down than black ones, and suddenly it stopped being a story. But what was being forgotten is that people were burning churches down here in America. We got people. Look what Islam does. They the first thing they do is they go in and they destroy 1,000-year-old statues. They want to smash it and watch it burn. And atheists, when they get the bit in teeth, are evil as far as human. No, I know darned well that eating as the next person as the person next to him. That's the problem, though. And ethical and as the next person to them. When you confront an atheist and they you know, you just, if you turn the question around on them, you tell them, says who? Into a stand. And they do it themselves. They do that every you know, whenever they're confronted with something they don't like. And, you know, a moral principle, a value judgment. Wrong. This is wrong. It's ethical. It's wicked. And they look at you and say, "Says who?" Values they believe in. They basically tell you, I have standards, I just don't believe in them. Don't like or trust them very much. atheist and you're an evolutionist, you believe that morals and ethics evolve, and that they're mercurial, that they change, that there is nothing genuinely per around. But as soon as you find he'll change, you've these are my. And people aren't blind or stupid. We've seen in nation. The ones where the atheists get chuck you. Not like Australia where they're just sitting as well. It's already look. Can't yet, but they are, and they're already arresting people of preaching on the radio. And mores are perfectly safe until they change their mind. And then it's screw you.